Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Goodish show. Today with me, Jeroen Corthout, the CEO and co-founder of Salesflare. Sorry, sorry,
Almost.
almost. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fine too. Thank you for taking time and joining us today. Tell us a little bit of the Salesflare for start.
Yeah, it actually started a little bit with a frustration with Salesforce. I've been using it myself for about 4 years. It's the very first CRM I tried, and I thought to be successful in sales, I had to use it very diligently. So I tried that, but I never really managed. It seemed like it was built in another sort of place and time, because what ended up happening is that I would organize myself in Outlook. I was using Outlook back then, and Wunderlist is a task list. Those tools were much more modern than what I found in Salesforce. Plus, in Outlook, my communication happened. The Wunderlist had my tasks, and I mean, what did I need Salesforce for? But then fast forward about 4 or 5 years, I was working with my current co-founder on a software company, and we had a lot of good leads from a conference. And the thing is, we didn't find any good system for ourselves to follow these people up sort of at scale. Like I think we had 130 leads at the time, and they were all interested in buying, but they needed to be taken through the process. They needed some time, they needed follow up. And we started off with a sheet, like most people, but that very quickly started failing. And then we thought, well, a CRM is probably going to solve this. And I knew that Salesforce wasn't going to solve it, so we looked for other stuff. And we tried a bunch of systems, and what we noticed is that, yes, in principle, they were built for it, but we always ended up failing keeping the system alive. It wasn't per se because the system wasn't well built or anything. It's just that it came with the expectation that we were going to fill it out constantly, diligently, with every little thing we did, every single detail. If we were just diligent enough to put it all into the system, then in the end we would reap the benefits. We would find everything there. We would be able to say, okay, follow up, what's the latest thing we discussed? Everything would be there. We could sort of rely on it. But the problem is the system relied on us for us to rely on the system. And that just didn't work. And then we thought, any sort of genesis moment for a company, there must be a better way. And we figured actually that the things we were inputting, they were already somewhere. So if we could just get the information there, bring it together automatically, offer it to us, that we just could like sort of curate the information, that would be much easier. So there's like emails in your inbox, there's people you're in touch with, there's their email signatures with data, there's meetings in your calendar, there's phone calls in your phone. There's stuff in the company database, stuff in social media. There's all kinds of tracking you have going on, like email tracking or web tracking. We built a system that takes all of that and brings it together and manages it for you, so that you can basically spend more time managing your customers in a reliable way. And that's what Salesflare is today. It's this CRM that is built from the ground up to automate your data input, to keep track of stuff automatically. It's not like many others that have sort of followed suit, a manual system with some automated streams. It's really an automated system that allows manual as well to control stuff. And it really helps you follow up your customers better.
So when did you start with the idea? How long did it take you from the beginning to where you are now?
Well, we started about 7.5 years ago, almost 7.5. That was in April, May 2014 is when we had that idea. At the time, the very first feature we were making was synchronizing emails into a CRM. People thought that was really weird. Nobody was doing that because I guess it was technically difficult, and then everybody was sold on the idea that it wasn't really an interesting idea, that you only had to put the important emails in the CRM and all that. But I think we started really active development because we went through a few stages before that. In September 2014, we had the first person who actually wanted to use it for free. In the spring of 2015, or maybe even spring of 2015, I think. And then towards the autumn, we had our first customer, the first person who wanted to pay for it.
So
it was
almost 1 year.
Yeah, took us 1 year. The thing is, it sounded all easy to us, at least. You take all this data, you plug into it, you bring it together, and you offer a CRM. Now the problem is, it isn't that easy. One, and second, we were building a CRM, which is generally a product that does a lot of stuff. So we had to build a lot of software. And there was also a lot of polishing to do to make sure that it was usable as well. So that whole process took us a year from starting development to getting that very first customer.
Okay, and so how did you then? So when the first customer came in, what happened then? How did you grow?
Well, we kept growing in the same way as we were at that moment. We were doing everything in a fully, how can I say, guided way. We were selling very manually. It was not that you could sign up on our site, look at the trial, and see whether it was something for you or so. I would get in touch with people, or they would get in touch with us through the form on our site. I would have a call with them where I showed how Salesforce was much better. Then I would say, do you want me to set this up for you? We would do that together. We would basically share screens. Maybe at that point they would share their screen. In the beginning, it was all you had to enter IMAP details and stuff. It was very complex. So we did that together. We connected. Then we created the first companies together. We connected their calendar. We started setting up their pipeline, and we did that process together. Then they started working with it. They came back with questions. I closed the deal. They started paying everything. And in the beginning, they paid via invoice. They didn't pay like with credit card. So it was a very, very manual process, but it helped us. I would never want to skip maybe parts of it, but what we learned during that period was super, super valuable because we were always there with the customer, guiding them through every little step. So we could very quickly understand what was going well and what was not going so well, iterate on that, and actually improve the experience. Which if you would look now, now it's the polar opposite. Like if you go to our site, you click try it for free. You can see the software before creating an account, before connecting your emails. You do that, you get some sort of sense of how it looks and what it does for you, what the value is. And then at the end it says, do you want to connect your emails and do it for yourself? And then you go into that. There's a setup guide. It starts helping you. You go through all these steps. Not saying that we are not there, but if you want to do it all by yourself, you perfectly can. So very much the opposite of how we started, and I think that's just
Do you still do those demo calls?
We still do those. Actually, for a while we didn't. But we've retaken them, especially since we started also attracting more and more larger customers, and I mean like mid-sized ones. It just doesn't work without doing proper demo calls and showing people things and guiding them through the process. It works very well if it's like 1 or 2 people coming on the software, but as soon as it becomes teams of 5 or 10 or 20 or 40 or whatever, then you need this sort of guidance as real sales.
Okay, a lot of questions. So How the first thing you were talking about? So at the beginning, you were everything was manually, and you work on one-on-one with the client, and now you are fully automate. So what was this journey? So how did you decide when to automate certain things? How to approach those issues?
I think the general feeling was like, if we understand well enough how to automate it, and we can without lowering the conversion rate too much, then we do it. And so constantly you're looking for steps in the process, like, okay, this is not going well. Why are we doing this manually? Why can it not be automated? If it's automated, is it the same experience? Is it a better experience? Are people going to get it? Is it still going to convert people, or is this going to become a bottleneck? Uh, if you feel that you nailed it in such a way that you understand it very well and you can automate it as well, then it's an ideal candidate. So throughout the whole process, you start identifying these points, and step by step, you just work on them and you take them away.
Okay. And another thing, so you were mentioning that at the beginning, so if I understood you correctly, the teams were smaller, and now you're targeting the bigger companies. So what was your niche at the beginning, and how are you choosing new niches? How you are choosing, how you are developing towards bigger companies?
Yeah, well, I didn't say we're not serving smaller companies anymore, but we are also attracting more and more larger ones. Um, we are mostly attracting agencies. That means like marketing agencies, mostly digital marketing agencies, software development companies. We have a ton of those. Consultancies of all kinds, from sustainability consultancy to normal management consultancy or whatever. And then we have a lot of tech companies on the software as well. So that means like SaaS companies like us, or telcos like telecom, or other types of startups. Within these same categories, we're attracting larger and larger ones. And we're also, well, it's partly facilitated also by the fact that we're doing these demo calls. It's partly also because we are just gathering more and more credibility. We're not just the new player on the block anymore, not just the company that you can't trust. Plus, I think the frustration with some systems that have been thrown at people for free for a while is now growing, and they're looking for alternatives. And that's both in the small and the mid-sized companies.
So if you take a look at your growth journey, what was your growth engine? Did you rely more on content, or on paid media, or advertising, conferences?
Also, that has changed dramatically over time. In the very beginning, like our first customer actually came from PR. We got in some article. In the beginning, it was mostly local PR. Like I think that was we're in Belgium, but I think that was a Dutch marketing blog / magazine. That worked well because we set out our vision, and that first customer just bought into our vision. They had the Microsoft Dynamics, which is a CRM for Microsoft. Their salespeople hated to use it. They read in the article that we were building something that basically kept itself alive, and that their salespeople didn't have to do all that work, and they would reap the benefits. And that got their attention, and they contacted us. Many of our customers after that either came through more articles, or they came through our network that we grew, one, based on our personal network, second, through the whole accelerator, incubator sort of network. And then from there, it's not super scalable, but you have to start with things that don't really scale, right? From there, I think there was a period that Quora, Quora.com, the question and answer website, was very popular in Google results. So if you would type something like the best CRM for something, you would always get to a Quora page. So we wrote quite some stuff for Quora. We got #1 answer on a lot of those, which create a lot of traffic. that sort of started dying out. But at the same time, we launched on Product Hunt, which is the biggest community for product lovers in the world. We had a really big launch, which got a lot of interest, which then also convinced the people of AppSumo to get us on AppSumo. They promoted us there. This created a lot of a lot of people came on our software. So imagine like Product Hunt, I think 300, 400 teams signed up in the 2 days after that. With AppSumo, it was 6,000 or something, somewhere in that. And they all made their accounts and they were all bought in, you know. So that created a lot of, next to feedback, which was really good, and work, because we had offered them free imports and help with integrations. It also created a lot of word of mouth. So a lot of people all of a sudden were using our software, loved it, told other people, wrote reviews, put the word out there, you know. We've largely been growing on word of mouth since then. But next to that, we've also been growing our content marketing traffic, which is something we started off with, I think, in 2017. Like the first few years, we didn't put any effort in that because we had other stuff to do, you know. We had other nuts to crack. We had to sell this thing. We didn't have to write articles. But around 2017, we first used content marketing as a sort of hype mechanism to get people's interest in Facebook groups and all that. Then we started switching to SEO towards our audience to attract more and more of our audience. And then we started switching our SEO more and more towards sales topics. And actually also topics where we can sort of show Salesflare in motion, so that people get a first idea of they're looking for something, how can Salesflare help them with that? And that's been a growing channel especially over the past year, the past 2 years, because SEO takes some time to actually gear up.
So you were talking about the word of mouth. Did you have any tactics for encouraging this or encouraging people to spread the news, or that just happened organically?
We tried stuff, but nothing really pushed the needle, I would say, like increased it. It's mostly organic. So what we tried are some kind of campaigns where if you get someone on the software, they get something, and the person that gets on gets something. We tried pushing our affiliate program. It works a little. We tried, what else did we try? But none of these things really make a difference. It's what makes most of the difference is really making people really happy with your software and getting more people on there. These two things make one that people are more likely to tell other people, and secondly, the more people you have on there, the more you will have responses when somebody says on LinkedIn or on Facebook, or they ask their friends, what kind of CRM are you using? Which I don't advocate as being a good way of finding a CRM, but then more will say Salesflare, which helps us as well.
Cool. So can you share with us, when you were growing and scaling and so on, what was the biggest, let's say, horror story, the biggest fail that you did, and what you have learned from it?
I think some of the most painful things are people stories where you, for instance, hire the wrong person and have to deal with your mistakes. But to not make it a people thing, I think we tested out a freemium model with Salesflare for a while. We couldn't like switch around everything, so we tested it without our customers knowing. We attracted traffic to it from ads, and we sent out emails and all those kind of things. We didn't get it to work after putting in a lot of effort. This was really a lot of work to make this happen. and that was quite painful. And we actually should have known that beforehand, but sometimes you just need to test things to know for sure. Because if it would have worked, of course, that would have opened other avenues.
And why do you think it didn't work?
I think when people are looking for a good CRM, they don't necessarily expect it to be free. Yes, there are free options on the market. They're very limited, mostly. And if you want to get similar functionality as what we offer, then you probably pay double. It's not free anymore, but double the price. And that's just a very hard model to get off the ground if you don't have a large volume of people looking for your product. So that is the main blocking factor. And in a space where there's probably around 700 CRMs today or something. One, and secondly, there are some big players that try to get all the visibility and have an enormous amount of resources to do that. Getting into that volume is very, very, very difficult. And it requires probably years more of pushing to get there, and then not knowing whether it's going to work out.
So, and then you changed. So now you don't have freemium, you have a free trial, right?
We've always had free trial. It's just we tested freemium in the like we tested it.
And if you compare the freemium versus free trial, what are the benefits? Let's say the benefits of the free trial.
For us or for the customers or?
For you, speaking of it, like let's say this is a tactic. If you are another SaaS company and you are thinking, okay, should I try freemium or should I try free trial? When to use free trial? When to go for freemium?
With free trial, you actually know quite clearly whether people want to pay for your product or not. You don't have to put up weird barriers which people don't enjoy and try to work around. You also attract more of your ideal target customer. While if you do a freemium plan, you will get a lot of people that will not pay ever. If you know what I mean, it's these people that only take free things, and then you have very low chance of converting them. I think in general, it's just a better way to really get a sense of who your customer is, have good conversations with them, know whether they think it's worth to pay for what it is you offer, and all those kind of things. In a freemium model, you can, if you're lucky, scale to a much higher scale, have more word of mouth, and through that grow. But that's only for the happy few, I'd say.
So with freemium, you can get more exposure, but also a lot of only small amount of paying customers and a lot of free users. Then, which, if I understand you correctly, you get unnecessary costs at a large scale.
You get unnecessary costs, which in our model would also be, I mean, we do a lot of things automated. We have a ton of data. It would get really expensive. That's for sure. But don't forget also the advantage when it comes to building relationships and really like knowing your customers and being in touch with them, and just building relationships. It's very hard to do that at the scale of a freemium model. Especially when you consider that there's an enormous amount of people using your software, and you only have so many resources to keep that relationship, because there's a lot of people, but you don't earn much money from them. While if you earn money from your customers, you also have the resources to have these relationships, which is something I really enjoy, because then it makes that you can build a better product by talking to them, While in a freemium model, you have to build a better product by doing sort of data experiments. But these data experiments only work out if you have a huge scale. If you just have the scale is like 5 times more than if you would do free trial, we will not have meaningful experiments.
Okay. Okay, and so that was the horror story. And can you also share with us something that really worked, some success stories?
Uh, I think there's a lot of small success stories. Like I already sort of highlighted when I went through the different things that worked for us to attract customers over time. Let me think which one I'm gonna pick. I'll go for AppSumo. It's a bit of a controversial one, but the thing with AppSumo is you shouldn't get on AppSumo if you if one you're going to have a lot of costs if you get thousands of accounts opened. If you will have a lot of running costs with that, don't do it. That implies like, is there any cost hidden to running such an account? Then it's going to be painful on you. If your product requires a ton of support, then it's going to be painful on you. Now we have a CRM, so it's quite a complex product. It was still doable, but was sort of on the edge. Don't expect to make a lot of upsales because you're acquiring people who are getting on a lifetime deal. They, by nature, expect to pay once and then use it forever. What we did was a bit different from many other deals. We offered one user free for life and then others at a discount, which made that we did make some upsells, but I wouldn't say a ton. What I would do it for is one, to get feedback on your product and improve it quickly. Second, maybe more importantly, to get some clouds, to get a lot of people using it, which then makes that they might tell other people they're ready to write reviews for you, they're ready to promote you, you can get them on the affiliate program. That is all great. If your product also benefits from visibility, like let's say a tool like Melon that we're using now, which is a streaming platform, you show it to me, I sort of, we use it together, so I experience it. I think like, oh, maybe there's something for me as well. Or you have a tool that is like a Zoom competitor or something, then it might be super interesting as well, because visibility scales more visibility. And what is painful is that it all comes in a big burst. So over the period of 3 weeks, we got 6,000 teams started on Salesflare. I'll go to our horror story now a bit. We didn't expect it to bring down our whole infrastructure. There were a few things that went wrong. One, we told at the time we used this kind of external service to sync mailboxes. We've taken that out since, but that got completely overloaded when all these people got on Salesflare. We had warned them up front, and they said they would be able to take it, but that wasn't true. Then our servers as well were extremely busy, and we hadn't built out this kind of scalable server infrastructure that we have today, which scales based on usage automatically. So that was very, very painful. Then we had offered, we didn't have an import module yet. So we said, we can import it for you, no problem. And we had built out some automation for that. But then in the end, we spent an enormous amount of time actually prepping data to go into that automation. And one of our developers at some point, after weeks of doing this, said, I'm fed up with this. I'm stopping it now. I'm going to write this import module. It will be there in 2 weeks. Just tell people that they have to wait for 2 weeks. And we did that. So that's a bit of the danger here, but the long-term benefit was really great. If you do a great job for these people coming from AppSumo, keep improving the product. You keep listening to what it is they have to say. A little caveat there is they're not necessarily your target audience, so don't take everything too seriously. I mean, they're still what they want might not represent what your actual customers want. But still, it's a really great learning process. It's a really great way of getting that word of mouth, getting a bigger community, and lifting your product to a higher level.
How long did it take you to prepare for the AppSumo campaign?
Way too short. Let's say we were sort of winging it at the time without a lot of preparation. We didn't have the sort of structure we have today, where we plan things well ahead and have meetings for that and plan and work, and then we didn't do that. So imagine that the morning of the launch, and we launched, I think, somewhere in the afternoon. I was still writing saved replies, which we could then use in Intercom to answer everyone at high speed. We only figured out that day that we were probably going to have to work nights, and we started setting up this sort of rotating schedule where I would get up at 4 in the morning and immediately get behind my computer and start doing support. And I would stop working at around 6 or so, and then go to bed really early. My co-founder, he would do the period up to 4. He would start working at 11 or something. Well, he worked also part of the rest of the day, but you know what I mean, like on the support. And then before that, there was some other colleagues, and like that, we spent the whole day, because the amount of support inquiries that we got was crazy.
How many people were at the team at that time?
I think we were 8 or so. I think we were 8 at the time.
A lot of work for 8 people.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, we should have planned better, and I would definitely recommend doing that. But we were very optimistic, which is one of the things that makes you become an entrepreneur, I guess. This sort of optimism that everything's going to turn out well. But if you want to grow as an entrepreneur, you need to also have a good dose of pessimism and introduce some planning and structure, because otherwise you're never going to be able to scale stuff, and it will remain chaos.
Okay, one topic I would like to dig into it more is building a relationship. You already kind of touched on several points, but I think you as a CRM know, and you mentioned that you have a lot of data on your clients, would know a lot about this. So how to build a relationship with a potential client, and yeah, let's start with this. So how to approach building a good relationship, how to be personal as a company?
Okay. I think it ties back to the 2 basic skills that every great salesperson should have, and that is 1, empathy, and 2, organization, system, reliability. To the first point, I think most people understand that empathy is important in the sales job. If you want to build a good relationship, you don't just jump on a call, run people through your PowerPoint, and then at the end they magically buy. That's not how it happens. Many salespeople think so, and if they get me on such a call, I get really, really frustrated. Some people talk about death by demo. You know, you try out some software, they say like, oh, we can demo it for you, and then you just get on the call. They don't listen to what it is you want, and they just start showing you the whole software, and you're like, please stop. I don't need this. Can you show me the one part that's relevant to me? You know. So what you do there is really listen to your customer, take the time to understand what it is they need, what their context is, not just Not just I need this. No, what's around this? What causes this? What's blocking this? Why didn't you solve this yet? Who are you solving this with? All these kind of things. Like understand the whole picture. And only when you understand that really well, you can start offering solutions. You can say, well, that's great. So you want to do this and that. Actually, our product does that, and I'll show you that now. You show that, and then when you've done that, you're like, okay, so are there any other things that are important to you? And they give you some more stuff. Then you're like, okay, I can also show you then the things I showed you now. They work that way, but they also tie into these other things. And if you're interested, I can show you that as well. You start from a point of really understanding people, not giving them much more than they asked for. You sort of I can suggest it to them, but you don't push it in their faces. And that's when it comes to the demos. There's also a lot of empathy throughout the process when you're following up. Just sending, bumping this or any news or so is not a great approach into following up. It's good to keep in mind what their blockers were, what the next thing is they want to solve within the process. Maybe they have to talk to the manager and sign up the budget, then you can think about, are there any ways we can help them do that? Like, can we help them create that budget or whatever? No, be very empathic there. Don't just say, and is it done already or something? That's one, the empathy side. When people are listened to and when you actually help them, it makes such a big difference versus other people that are doing a similar thing, because a lot of people don't do it well. That's why we all hate salespeople, because there's so many bad ones out there. Not because sales is not a great thing to do. Sales is helping collaboration and helping humanity to work together, but there's a lot of sleazy salespeople. And then secondly, organization, having a system, being reliable. So the thing I just talked about, empathy, I highlighted it with one customer, right? Really building a relationship with one customer, but it's not what you're doing as a salesperson. If you would be building a relationship with one customer, then you're maybe an account executive from a big company for IBM, but that doesn't happen often. Most often, you have tens of leads, maybe hundreds, and you're trying to do that thing at scale. So you're trying to build relationships, make people feel heard, follow them up at the right times, remember what it is the next thing they want to solve, what the blockers are, by when they think they can give you an answer, all these things, all these little details with a lot of people at once. And following up at the right times when it makes sense for them, not too early and all that. And that's if you bring these two things together, that's what makes a great salesperson. Like you often find sometimes you find the first ones that are like very empathic and all that and want to help you and understand everything, but you don't often find these people that are also very skilled in organizing this at scale. But when you find those people, those are really the top salespeople. They know how it is to build relationships at scale, you could say.
So before, when I was asking you about the horror story, you kind of mentioned a little bit that there were some stories with the people, hiring people and so on. And now you're again mentioning things like what the great salesperson looks like. How are you at the moment? How are you approaching hiring talent, hiring new stuff? What are you looking for when you are hiring new people?
I'll break it down in two things again. One, you want to know whether people are. I'll start from the other perspective. When you're looking for a job, there's two things that are very important. One, what is the job content? Is this really something I want to do? And two, is this a group of people I want to work with? In the other direction, from the company's perspective, you want to find a person that is exceptionally good at the thing you're hiring them for. In an early stage startup, it might not exactly be that way because you might need someone who is good at a lot of stuff, like more of a generalist that also can go into some things deeply, but not necessarily like an expert. Anyway, there's that one aspect. And second, do they have the same values, or at least do the values work in the rest of the team? Do they collaborate well with the others? Do they sort of are they sort of different but still fit in really well? Do they value things you really value? Those are the two things to look out for. Now, in back in the day, we would also be more in the we'll wing it sort of approach there, which made that we made some mistakes. Since then, we've taken it all way more seriously. I would say first advice is don't hire anyone before you really need them. Yeah, it's often you think like, oh, it'd be so much easier if we had this person as well, and we just take them on. And what it will very often impair is one, your ability to hire the right person, because you haven't really understood the job yourself yet, so you don't really know what to look for. And when you take them on, it's also very hard to guide them because you also don't really know what it's about. And another point is that when you hire someone to do a job that you haven't really figured out yet yourself, you rely on that person to have the skill and the passion and all that to iterate quickly through approaches, which you cannot necessarily expect. They are not a founder, so you cannot expect them to take on that role per se. So don't hire too early. But then also when you're hiring, be very careful, because to the culture aspect, and taking one person and putting into a group of people can entirely change the way people communicate with each other. It can change the whole atmosphere. So it's really a sort of, every time you add someone, so the make it or break it moment. So make sure that it's people that really uplift everything instead of bringing it down. And then secondly, if you hire someone that is not really great at the job, then that's you will spend a lot of time trying to get them to that level because you believe that they can do it, right? So it's a lot of energy that goes in there. You're sort of taken away from the job you're doing at that moment to really onboard that person, get them up to speed. But if at some point you feel that it's not going to work, then it becomes even heavier, because then one, you're putting all that energy into that person, and second, you have this this feeling that it might be that you hired the wrong person, you have to fire them, which is also very hard on you. So it's not something you want to do. And I had another point. So there's the culture aspect, there's the work. A third thing we really look for is can a person express themselves well in written format, especially. Why written? First, a lot of the communication we have with customers is written. We write blog posts, how-to articles, we chat with them, we send them emails, you name it, social media posts. So many things are written. So if people can't write, then it's very hard to have them communicate with customers. Secondly, internal communication is also largely written. So for instance, we write issues in GitHub. We comment on these things. We're in Slack and we write things, we write up documents with of meetings. We write out documents of how we're going to build a certain feature. And if the language in that is not clear, it's sort of half. Then we lose a lot of time there. Or if they in the other direction can't really read well, that's also really painful. Then they do the wrong things or interpret things wrong. But it's mostly on the writing side there. So what we've put in place is a process in which we have interviews with multiple people in the company. So multiple people can sort of judge their culture fit. We do background checks in the sense of references, calling with people to understand what it is they're good at and what it is they're bad at. You always, of course, these people you call with will likely expose the good sides because that's what they've been sort of hired for, whatever. But you can always also look for the negative side in a friendly way. Then I always ask for something they've written, something a bit longer per se, not per se, preferably, that I can see whether it's well structured and I understand what they're saying and I don't get super tired when I'm reading it. That it's clear, I can just see it on the page, you know. And then additionally, the last time we hired someone, we did a little sort of test as well. We had 2 people in the end of the process, and we both had them fill out something with some mock cases, like how they would approach this and that. That really gave us a good idea also of who was the best person for the job. Preferably, we actually have a sort of test working together also with the person, that we know how it is to work together, that it's not the first day after you hire them is the first time you work together and then you're like, oh shit, should have done this. That there's some trial working together. But with most of the developers, this worked out well. They many of them have started as students with us, like in a student job in the summer for a month, and then we could feel whether that made sense, and then we hired them. In some other jobs, it's a bit harder, but it's something you should try doing somehow. And always going through people you know is so much easier than hiring sort of out in the cold or whatever, because you know that, well,
you kind of
also
get a feeling who they are and how they are operating and how they will get along with the team.
Yeah, and preferably also people with whom the people you know have worked together, so you know there's some positivity there, not just that they know each other as friends or something.
Okay, so many really useful information already in this interview. Let's close this up with your plans for the future. So where do you see Salesflare in, let's say, 2 to 3 years?
It's hard to say. We're always testing out new stuff. So we're trying things. We're seeing what sticks. So I cannot give you this clear picture. I can tell you our next plans of what we're doing. Like in the long run, if you ask me where does Salesflare go, is we've sort of automated CRM data input. We've built a lot of useful things on top of that for you to follow up your leads. We've built automation on top of that data as well. And if you pull this out into the future, at some point, it's a system that keeps track of everything for you. It tells you when to follow up with people. It tells you whether they're in the mood for it. It tells you whatever. And the only thing you're doing is the very human part of sales. Is you talking to the customer, understanding what it is they need and all that, and the system will even take notes of that. And you are just needed there to interact with other humans in the way that you're good at, and the system does all of this data management, because in the end, computers are way better at that than we are. Also, when it comes to organizing things on a higher level, that's really computer work. Now, in the short term, what we're working on right now is Well, we've just released custom dashboard functionality in Salesforce. You can build any dashboard that you'd like. Now we are working on an upgrade of our email workflow systems or email sequences functionality. So that has, well, you can duplicate things and you can attach it in a cool way to Zapier and all that. Our next thing is integrating closer into LinkedIn, because a lot of customers ask that. LinkedIn isn't really cooperative, but we're going to build something that still sort of brings Salesforce into LinkedIn, so you can use things together, like you can already use Gmail and Salesforce really well together. And then we're going to go more into that direction, and I mean the direction of leads, sort of beginning of the pipeline, by building an elite search. So you'll be able to say, I'm targeting whatever SaaS companies in the US, preferably that have something to do with sales or so. Show me the content marketing manager for some reason. And let's start emailing those people. You'll all be able to do that in one place. That's at least the plan.
Cool, cool. So a lot of cool, really cool features are coming up. So everyone, please check Salesflare. Uh, Jeroen, I would really like to thank you for being honest during this conversation, sharing with us horror story, success story, giving out tips how to hire people, how to approach growth, marketing, and everything. So I really appreciate this and really thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
So, and everybody, see you in a couple of weeks for another episode. Stay tuned. Bye.